2022 that I'm going to be sharing. And what it is there was a prosecutor who was basically targeted by U.S. politicians and particularly Joe Biden because he was investigating Joe Biden for conspiracy with the former Ukrainian president for causing tariffs on theft of money of the Ukrainians. Okay, so this was the Biden-Putin parental coal control and money theft of Ukrainians fiasco. Biden, in a video on YouTube, even bragged about having this prosecutor fired and withholding resources, and you can hear there's recorded conversations with Biden and this former president and assuring him, right, giving assurances. But basically, Joe Biden and his family invested in energy companies over there in Ukraine. And it upset Putin. And so basically, they created this banana trade company that created these tests that caused these prosecutors to take a test. They had no legitimate experience to create such tests to give to prosecutors. It was solely created to basically get this prosecutor fired, target him because he was investigating Joe Biden. And so the prosecutor refused to take the test, and he was subsequently fired. And so this is the conversation. The prosecutor, they had whistleblowers, interviewers that they did that exposed corruption of Joe Biden. And they pretty much quashed this from the internet. They stripped it. I found these videos via a specific website, ByShoot, that is not as censored as like Facebook is. And so, hang on, let me pause this. The reason that I'm sharing this is because of the, and you'll see a video, I'll put in the link of the description once this video live stream is done. There was recent reports in the prosecution of Hunter Biden, and it came out during that trial how the FBI had gone to social media platforms and ordered them basically to expect that there was going to be leaks and about Biden, Joe Biden, and his involvement in the Ukrainian energy, you know, causing tariffs and stealing money from the Ukrainians. So the FBI quashed and said, hey, this is what you're going to do. You're going to quash the visibility of those, any post. You're going to basically just not allow it. And so Facebook admitted that they were pressured by the Biden administration to do that. And then the evidence came out. The FBI knew that the whole Hunter Biden laptop thing, that they knew that there wasn't Russia propaganda, wasn't interference with the election. This was not propaganda. So anyways, this is that video that I shared back in 2022 that I'm going to just let it play.
It wasn't even allowed to be discussed at all. It wasn't allowed to be investigated.
Oops, and I apologize.
I think the citizens in America have a right to know at least what is alleged.
So hang on.
I've got it sped up.
Now you'll have to,
It's very long.
because the leaked information about today's press conference last week was announced. The Treasury, under the request from Democratic senators, talking about U.S. Democrat senators, did not want us to publish what we're going to release today. He's talking about U.S. politicians interfering with investigations in Ukraine. We did not refuse a press conference. Material evidence now, testimony, witnesses to we want return of billions of money to Ukrainian citizens. This is not Russian propaganda. These are Ukrainians, not Russians. But this was one of the things that Putin did complain about, was the interference with the resources over there. He's got his nerve going over there invading Ukraine like he did. We're convinced external governments, international corruption are twins. Many faces, senior government officials, oligarchs, schemers, and many other actors who steal from the Ukrainian people. So this is not I just want to pause this so people understand. This was not the President Zelensky. This was the president before Zelensky was in power. that Joe Biden was conspiring with to steal money via tariffs from the Ukrainians, because Biden was investing in the energy company over there. And also, I want to pause this and mention too that this, I'm going to back it up. This was recently brought before Congress in recent months. Everything that I presented in these 2022 videos that was exposed, that basically the media quashed, I was calling out before it was ever even exposed during the Hunter Biden trial. I complained about how they're quashing this evidence, right? So these videos that I shared in March, early 2022, this happened like months, several months before the what happened, way before the Hunter Biden trial, which was just recently. So everything that I said was happening in these videos was proven to be happening in the Hunter Biden trial. Okay, I just want to state that. So these prosecutors were not allowed, they're just sharing what the US and Biden did to them. Demo corruptionists are very afraid because documents, numbers, shocking recordings. Let me back that up, because I did speed this up, so let me back this up. They're very afraid because documents, numbers, and shocking recordings support every word that we're going to say today. And even Biden, in a YouTube video, was talking, he was bragging about how he got this prosecutor fired, and he was withholding resources to Ukraine unless he got that prosecutor fired.
I'll provide the link to this full video.
Because he was investigating Joe Biden and his actions with his energy company and his family's business over there, what they were doing to the Ukrainian people. With each new fact, a new entry, new posting accounts, we are convinced that external governance and international corruption are the twins with many faces of senior corruptions, or senior officials, government officials. Siamese twins with many faces of senior government officials. Oligarchs, schemers, and many other actors who steal from the Ukrainian people. These are Ukrainians saying this. And then the FBI had the audacity to go to Facebook, Google, and all these other companies and claim that these facts and stuff going on, what Joe Biden was doing over there was like Russian interference. No, this is Ukrainian prosecutors who were interfered with by U.S. politicians, including Joe Biden himself, for investigating Joe Biden. Evidence of withdrawal through financial holes of millions of dollars stolen from the Ukrainian people, laundered with the help of banks and laundromats in various jurisdictions. So this whole war that has allowed Putin to go over there, Biden has been the one who's been over what, Ukraine gets for assistance or what they don't get for assistance, right? The very guy that the former president was investigating, now in power, is going to decide what help Ukraine gets while they're being slaughtered. That's what's happening. Laundering money, and their subsequent transfer to the accounts of the company belonging to the Biden family. New recording conversations between the persons who appear to be the fifth president of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, and former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden, testifying to external governance. We will also unveil colossal corruption schemes related to procurement of coal and gas, due to which Ukrainians pay 30% higher utility tariffs. And keep in mind, this is part of the reason what led to the war in Ukraine. At the time, highest officials of Ukraine and the United States participated in these schemes. And currently, the FBI has protected Joe Biden. The FBI has done the damage to Ukraine. Okay, these are Ukrainian people suffering from these tariffs because of Joe Biden and his investments in that country, and the FBI protected them. It should be considered human rights violations. But they quashed this prosecutor who was investigating Joe Biden. The highest officials of Ukraine, we will also make public the facts of embezzlement of hundreds of thousands of dollars of technical assistance provided to Ukraine by the U.S. state, as well as evidence. Yeah, and even Biden himself in a video was talking about, withholding resources unless he got this prosecutor fired who was investigating him. Sabotage of the Prosecutor General's office of Ukraine. Exactly what they did. Every word that we will voice today is supported by documents, numbers, and records that were given to us by investigative journalists, as well as people who have information about corruption schemes and witnesses who are directly involved in a number of processes, which we'll talk about. And then I share the videos of the actual interviews with the whistleblowers. And of course, they scrubbed the internet of those videos, but I salvaged them. We will transfer all facts about international corruption and external governance in Ukraine at our disposal to the law enforcement agencies. They should have taken this to the United Nations. Today we will be present to your attention only part of the testimony by witnesses. I emphasize part of the testimony by witnesses. I want to assure you that we do have other witnesses who can confirm the facts of international corruption, including citizens of foreign states, meaning Joe Biden. Without further ado, first part of our press conference. Evidence of withdrawal through financial holes, $1 million stolen from Ukrainian people with their subsequent transfer to the accounts of the company belonging to the Joe Biden family. At one first press conference about a year ago, we showed bank transactions for hundreds of thousands of dollars to the family of former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden. Now, some of this stuff was presented at that hearing. Why is it that I presented this evidence in videos in 2022, and this didn't make it to the congressional until 2024? The legislators just didn't do what they were supposed to do, basically. Tranches to the Joe Biden's lobbying company. So this stuff, the reason I'm saying that this stuff made it to the congressional, just that this stuff that I shared was being squashed by the FBI. I knew it was the government that was squashing it. I knew it was these platforms. I didn't have any evidence of that. But since the prosecution of Hunter Biden, now I have proof that, in fact, the FBI was squashing it. I got the videos of the interviews and the whistleblowers' interviews from somebody on ByteShoot. That's how I got the evidence and salvaged it. And I have many, many copies in case they attack my computers. I have many, many copies. They're preserved. Burisma belongs to the fugitive Yanukovych-era minister Mykola Zlochevsky. The conclusion of Biden in the Burisma leadership and payment for his services is nothing more than a political cover that protected Zlochevsky from the Ukrainian law, namely from the criminal code. So a prosecutor trying to do his job and investigate was just sabotaged. So after a series of press conferences, our group of investigators, namely the senior prosecutor, the group of prosecutors of the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine, for investigating the economic crimes of the Yanukovych regime in 2016 to 2019, was approached by two foreign citizens. They were directly involved in laundering millions of dollars stolen by Zlochevsky. From Ukrainians, with the subsequent withdrawal of these millions to accounts of Burisma and further withdrawal to the accounts of the company belonging to Biden's. And see, so that's why they went after Hunter Biden over some nonsense, has nothing to do with any of this type of charges, to deflect away from what Joe Biden did. And then anything you say about Biden, they're trying to say it's all Russian propaganda. This guy's not Russian. He's Ukrainian. Accusing them of this. But that's how they get by with their crimes. And people, please, I'm begging you to share this. This is so important. If you know what I mean, we have to be proactive and demand these legislators hold the FBI accountable for what they have done. Since these foreign citizens are in the process of obtaining the official status of corruption whistleblower provided by Ukraine and for the purpose of their personal safety. So in their interviews, they do cover their face so that, you can't identify them. They were treated as whistleblowers. As well as based on the secrecy of the investigation, we will call them by the code names Witness 1 and Witness 2.
In light of this, I have big problems with the delays.
Konstantin Kulik, the head of the group of prosecutors of the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine for investigating economic crimes of the regime. We'll tell you more about this, Konstantin. You have the floor.
They sent stuff from the beginning.
Okay. We'll now show witness confirmed, describe in detail the corruption scheme laundering millions of dollars stolen by Levitsky. Giving all the money to the Bidens, or transferring to the accountants of the Bidens. The witnesses to the law enforcement agencies of Ukraine, which outlines the mentioned facts. I suggest watching the video. And I shared those interviews. Okay, so this is one of them, and he's got his hiding the identity. Hang on a second. And today we will present before talking to me. As I understand, they are entered into agreement with him. And then he, hides his name. Sorry, I'm trying to get this situated. What can you... I know about the circumstances of the illegalized laundering of money transferred from Ukraine, which had no legitimate origin, is what he's saying. These are the whistleblower witnesses. There's 2 of them. And he asked them, did you take part in this? He says, they'll tell you about these circumstances, and what happened. So since 2010, this went on for a long time, right? Let's see, Obama took office, in 2008? Together with other people, I have provided services to some Ukrainian and Russian businessmen to legalize their illegal income and evade taxes. So this is 2 years, Joe Biden was in office for 2 years by then. Dozens of companies were registered in offshore zones on dummy people. So as a rule, citizens of those offshore countries. Then we receive power of attorney for the dummy. The citizens of Latvia for the right to manage these companies. We opened accounts for these companies with banks in Latvia and got access to the management of these accounts. These are witnesses that the prosecutor are protecting their names and helping to obscure their identities. These are prosecutors that these are witnesses to. So, did you have Mykola Zloveski as your client? And when did you start working with him, and how did it all happen? And they didn't just have their testimony, they had documents to go along with this. Some of the documents made it to our congressional hearings, but not all of them. In Ukraine, they had a lot of black cash, unaccounted cash in Ukrainian revenue hidden from taxes. We're talking about an amount of up to $10 million.
I don't like that there was absolutely complete blackout with American media.
And I will say that after I did these videos, my account was, this computer that is shown right here was destroyed. It was like hacked and destroyed. It's like, that's okay because I have everything backed up. But it's, anyways. WaterLogic Technology, AS and Digitex Organization, LLP. I was in contact with a person from Burisma Holdings, ZZZ, who acted as a manager. They gave technical instructions on what amounts to withdraw from Ukraine, for what purposes to spend, and also sent invoices and other documents if necessary. There was a person among us who, if necessary, contacted him on these issues directly. I gotta let my dog outside. Let me pause this real quick because I want to emphasize we worked only with the money that belonged to Mykola Zloveski personally, and which at different times were on the accounts of different offshore he's not gonna stop barking, companies, as well as on specially open account of Burisma Holdings Ltd with the Latvian Private Bank AS. What I wanted to say is I had nothing to do with other companies. Hang on a second, I gotta let my dog out. Oh, all right, buddy, I'm coming. He's gotta go, right, buddy? Right, buddy? Yeah, I need to trim his nails. Good gravy. All right. And he'll let himself back in. Hey, baby. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. related to the production and sale of gas. So they were causing huge tariffs to the Ukrainian people. And then there are some actual recorded conversations of Joe Biden and the former president of Ukraine. You understood the legality of the origin of this money. Can you explain why you made such a conclusion? I knew Zelensky held various government positions in government in Ukraine and at the same time was engaged in business, government official in any country is what is not allowed to do business. This is corruption. I think he understood this since he used our services secretly and not officially. In the case of him, the situation was more corrupt since he used services his official position as minister to provide references to his own businesses, companies that were engaged in gas production. I want to make sure that I understand correctly, according to what you said, how the scheme for the legalization of money in which Mykola Levesky took part in Ukraine, unaccounted cash that belonged to Mykola was deposited in the settlement accounts of Ukrainian companies in the Ukrainian bank in form of hryvnia. After that money was converted and transferred from the Ukrainian bank to private bank AS. Then U.S. dollars were bought on the basis of foreign economic contracts, and these U.S. dollars were credited to the Council of Logic Technology, AS, and Digitex Organization, LLP, and they were opened with Private Bank AS. After that, U.S. dollars were transferred from the mentioned company's account of Burisma Holdings Ltd. with Private Bank AS in Latvia. Where were you carried out your activities from, and what technical means did you use? We worked from an office in Riga, Latvia, and my colleagues were also located in Kyiv, Ukraine. Do you have 2 offices in Kyiv? Yes. We use computers in our work, and as I said earlier, they were client-based system. We worked using VPN, and this computer was used in work. So these were the ones that provided services. We used that provided the services to help basically launder this money. Please clarify to me the circumstance of opening an account for Burisma Holdings Ltd. with Latvian Private Bank AS. How was this account used? In 2012, we were approached by a client. Now, keep in mind, let me pause this right here. Keep in mind, at this point, by 2012, Joe Biden's been in power for 4 years, and this is time for them to be reelected. Okay, so this time they were approached by a client who said that Mykola Zlochevsky wants to open a separate account for Burisma Holdings Ltd., and Obama was his boss. So Mykola used the Burisma Holding Bank account to pay for his personal needs when he wanted to disguise his personal payments as payments on behalf of this company.
Okay, I had to speed it up just a little
So
bit.
in 2012, we were, okay, yeah, I just repeated that. He wants a separate account, and then he gave the name. He said Mykola used the Burisma Holding Bank account to pay for his personal needs when he wanted to disguise his personal payments and payments on behalf of this company.
If you watch on YouTube, you just go to the gear icon and you can slow it down.
Do you know the circumstance of the transfer money for consulting services to the account of American company Rosemont? Let me back that up right quickly. Rosemont Seneca Bohey LLC to the account of the American company. See, so Joe Biden and these companies in America were involved in this conspiracy to commit these illegal acts in Ukraine. And Vice President Joe Biden, who was vice president at that time, was using his position and along with some other U.S. Officials to get this prosecutor fired who was investigating Joe Biden. And now Joe Biden as president has been using the FBI, of course the FBI criminally going along with trying to spread false claims that it's Russian propaganda on anything involving the Biden family. I know these payments were made between November 2014 and October 2015, and I noticed strange recurring amounts. I just thank God for these whistleblowers, right? In U.S. dollars, which were paid in the amount of $83,333.33 U.S. dollars. transferred from Burisma Holdings Ltd. to Rosemont Seneca Bohé LLC. Now keep in mind, these guys here have all these documents. This is not like some just claim and allegations. This prosecutor had actual documents and I pray specifically, God, please get these documents. You can't squash this case. These legislators needs to take these documents to Congress, which eventually they took some of it, but it was just like, anyways, they noticed these were some strange uneven amounts. Secondly, they were repeated. There were about 20 payments and there were a lot of them. And it was all about consulting fees. It was as if there was some kind of large payment split into unequal parts that would not attract the attention of the bank. Have you seen any contract confirming these payments? I have not seen any contract to confirm these payments. So what it looked like, how it can be a sample of payment order was sent to the email and who sent it. And they gave the name of the person that sent it. It was necessary to enter it through the client bank system and, as I said, transfer from the account of Burisma Holdings Ltd. With the Latvian private bank AS to the account. Of American company Rosemont Seneca. So what money was used to credit on this company account? The money of McCullough was used, which was transferred from the WireLogic Technology AS and Digitex Organization LLP. And then they'll show, now what they do is they show all the documents that basically connects all the companies, all the documents, all the people. This is just the interviews of the witnesses, the whistleblowers. Unaccounted cash from Ukraine, according to the described scheme, and in the end it went to Burisma Holding Ltd. Payments were made from it, including to Rosemont. How did you know where's Russian money and where's Ukrainian money? This is what you don't want to say. How did you keep those records? As I said, all this money was mixed in the Council WireLogic Technology AS and Digitex Organization LLP all together. So what was your task in all this? Payments from the company were made to Alan Apter. This happened in 2014 from December 16, 2014 to August 19, 2015. And there was also a large amount of €242,885 paid. Payments from the company, yeah, made in euros. That one was in euros. So this one went to an individual, Alan Apter, in Citibank, for consulting services also. There was also transfers in the same period to the account of an individual, Alexander Kwasniewski, with PKO Bank Polski S.A.
Very concerned.
How much was the transfer? It was also for consulting services, and the amount was €1 million. So he filed a statement of offense asking for the status of a corruption whistleblower so they could be protected. This person knows the circumstances of the direct participation of McCullough in the mentioned crimes and the circumstances of the concealment of these crimes after 2014. At this point, I'm not giving his name because I believe he should take advantage of the witness protection program. I want to ask you, after you listen to the witness's story, I can confirm what was said in the conversation today. This is this person over here talking. Was operating from about 2009 to legalize and optimize the client's funds. In this situation, we're talking about McCullough and Burisma Holdings Ltd. Transaction were made in his favor. The transfer of funds to Burisma Holding came from two companies mentioned above and Burisma to pay its bills. In this situation, it paid to Rosemont Seneca Bohé. What can you say about Rosemont? The company was owned. Let me back that up. it was owned by Biden. This was, it paid the Rosemont Seneca Bohai LLC account with Morgan Stanley. Can you say about Rosemont? And it will say it was owned by Biden. No, Hunter Biden. The company was owned by Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son. So this is the part of the recording of the interview witnesses, which was conducted by Konstantin Kulik in the presence of a lawyer. The full recording of this conversation.
Okay, so now I'm gonna fast
The
forward.
part where Joe Biden and Hunter Biden cannot be separated. Joe Biden has recorded conversations, and I'm not real certain who's the one that set up the recording, if the former president was involved with that. I can't imagine that a president of Ukraine would be recording without being known that he was being recorded, but the phone calls between Joe Biden and the former president, they were recorded.
To the phone conversation recordings between Biden
And they were
and the
very
former
telling.
president. It was awesome.
All the described financial transactions were fictitious. A lot of money was paid in Ukraine, so the state authority turned a blind eye to it. They're quoting them.
They did.
And I'm speeding his speech up a little bit when I'm making these videos. This laptop, which the witness hands over to law enforcement officers. What funds did the participants in the scheme receive? So this whole laptop thing, they've just completely deflected what was really going on and made it about, they just charged him with the stuff that didn't even involve this. It was all deflection. It's all that case about Hunter Biden was deflection from the truth. In the period from November 2014 to October 2015, witnesses no strange recurring payments, so he's repeating that. Oh, I think I've already said all this. So they basically, yeah, so. Okay, so this is the Morgan Stanley document. Okay, what I'm saying is there's documents, there's numbers. This is evidence you're looking at right here of international crimes involving Joe Biden and Hunter Biden.
If this was Trump, those documents were available, I guarantee he'd been in impeachment process.
Right. But some of this was going on even while, Trump was in office, too. Not by him, I'm just saying that he continued even when he was no longer in office. In addition to €242,000 were transferred during the period of December 2014 to August 2015 from Burisma Holding account controlled by Zelensky to the account of Mail after. And see, during this time also, so you know, Putin, whatever his name is, the Russian president, he started a campaign against the southern region of Ukraine. Borisrap, there was two areas, and they started going in and they started infiltrating and setting people in there and taking over a part of Ukraine by force using little militias. And I also shared, there was petition. I'm going to go into that right now. This is from 2014. The views and opinions of southeastern regions residents of Ukraine. So basically, before Putin went in there and started taking over the Donbass, these areas in Ukraine, while Trump even was in office, they were going in there. They were they weren't pro-Russian at all. But once they were being propagandized and they were being manipulated, this shows what their opinions were in 2014. And this was done by Kyiv International Institute of Sociology. It is marketing research. And so KIIS study commissioned by the newspaper Mirror of Week. The survey opinions and views of the citizens of southern and eastern regions of Ukraine was conducted by this organization. So it's a mixed type of polling was used in the survey in large cities with populations of 100,000 and higher. Regional centers, computer-assisted telephone interviews were held. In towns and villages, ordinary face-to-face interviews and respondents' households were conducted. So basically, they were saying what the opinion was of these people before Putin started going in and taking over that area. Do you consider Viktor Yanukovych to be a legitimate president of Ukraine? And then this was the amount of people saying what they were saying. Yes, no, rather no, certainly no, don't know. Do you support actions of those who with arms capture administrative buildings in your region? See, this is because this is what was happening. They were taking over. So if Trump ever says that, nobody was invading Ukraine, well, yeah, they were, just not as violently as they did starting in after he left office. Do you support actions of those who with arms capture administrative buildings? And then most of them were like, absolutely not, right? So do you support the idea that your region should secede from Ukraine and join Russia? And all of them, like 53% said certainly no, or just basically no. Only a tiny bit of this amount of people was going along with that. That's so anybody that says that they were all wanting to leave and go to Russia, that's just not even true. This was conducted while this we'll call it Cold War, if you will, taking over, the southern part of Russia. But basically he was upset about the resources being interfered with by American politicians such as Joe Biden. Okay? It says, do you consider invasion of Russian troops into the territory of Ukraine possible? And so that was pretty much mixed, but I think more of them believed that absolutely yes, that they were concerned about that. In the case of incursion of Russian troops into the southeast of Ukraine, you're going to, and then it tells you the percentage of people stay at home and not interfere, 46%, because they were too afraid. But 20% of them would put up armed resistance. And actually, it turned out when the actual war happened, it's almost like they were studying what the responses would be, but actually more of them fought, I think, than they expected. Do you support an introduction of Russian troops into Ukraine? And then this was the response, no, was pretty much largely the answer. Do you consider the civil war in Ukraine possible? And that was pretty much mixed. What makes you anxious most of all at the present moment? Raging and banditry in the country was a large one. Intention of central authority to the problems of southeast of Ukraine. Growth of radicalism was a large one. Non-payment of salaries and pensions. So there was a lot of financial stuff that was going on there. This is telling you the people, this is what they're saying. Risk of losing job, collapse of the Ukrainian economy. It's a lot of financial stuff. Rupture of economic ties with Russia. Threat of civil war was pretty large. Threat of invasion of Russian aggressor. What measures do you expect from the central authority in order to preserve the unity of the country? And reestablishment of dialogue. They wanted peace, economic and political, with Russia. They didn't want war. They wanted to stay peaceful, but it wasn't made possible. And I'm not blaming the U.S. Biden for what he did, but I think because there's long-standing problems with Putin and his just ridiculous delusions that NATO doesn't have a right to exist was his main thing. But a lot of this was his contributor to tip him over into this invasion, was the sources. That you don't mess with the energy. You don't go into the land and start manipulating with the resources. That, I think, just took him over. I think it toppled him over into the madness he's in now. I do blame Joe Biden and Obama and our government partially for what crazy stuff that Putin is currently doing. Putin's responsible for the slaughter that he's doing. He didn't even try to go to the UN and resolve things, in my opinion. That, hey, look what these U.S. people are doing or whatever. He didn't even try. As far as I know, he didn't even try. And he's wrong for that. All this money in a total amount of about, I don't remember how many millions it was, stolen from the Ukrainians. I think all this is just repeat. Files, wait a minute, let me back that up. Files of financial intelligence units containing intelligence information from FIU of Cyprus and Latvia, and talked about the Burisma holding. So this prosecutor had a lot of evidence, and for the United States Democratic corrupt officials to go in there and do what they did is just outrageous. They created a banana trade company to come up with these tests to test this prosecutor for, you know what I mean? Like, they just came up with new tests, and you got to take these new tests. And they had no experience whatsoever to create these tests. It was all a fraud. So he didn't take the test, and then he was fired. The Biden family provided political cover for Solkevsky for the money he stole from the Ukrainians in the amount of at least $3.4 million. So here we go. Here's the charts. It shows you the connections. So you've got Biden, Joe Biden, right here, connected to this guy. This is what the black cash he was talking about earlier. Commercial bank in Ukraine, okay, and Digitex organization. Then you've got Joe Biden directly connected to Hunter, and all this is like in this. See what I'm saying? Laundered and filtered. Alan Apter, Citibank, okay. This is the chart that they created showing the connections and how the flow of money went. And I apologize that this is the best I've got because they destroyed my laptop after I preserved this evidence that they tried to scrape from the internet. You will not find this anywhere on the internet. I think they even eventually got it off of ByShoot. It may still be on there, but these facts are even blocked in Ukraine. If Burisma again wants to whiten Biden, I've won one court case. Okay, it's a court decision under the claim of Burisma Group against Andrei Durkek. And so this was the court case, the documents from that court case that he won.
Criminal activity by Biden because the investigation was wrong.
And I don't care if YouTube blocks me from getting any visibility on these on these videos or whatever. It's like whatever. But I ask you, if you do see this video, please share it. Corrupt postings wants to trample on corruption schemes.
The Americans that try to share this, they just consider it fake news, and it's not fair because people have the right to investigate things and demand investigations. And Facebook just uses their own so-called...
Now we will publish new recordings of the conversation between persons which appear to be Poroshenko. And okay, so here's the recorded conversations with Joe Biden and the former president of Ukraine.
These are allegations. Okay.
These recordings were verified by the prosecutor. This is evidence in the investigation that they're revealing because they never got to prosecute because Joe Biden used his political power of the United States to destroy him, right? But he still got the evidence, so that will never go away. And I personally think God holds Americans accountable for not demanding and using their freedom of speech and their right to petition the government to not demand Joe Biden be held accountable. I think God's going to hold them accountable who don't use that freedom to do so. The new U.S. Let's listen to the recording. Wait a minute. What did he say about? Wait a minute. What did he say about Donald Trump? Let me back that up. And relations with the new U.S. President Donald Trump. Okay, let me slow this down just a little bit because in this video I do have it sped up a little bit, so I want you to listen to this. All right, here we go. This is Joe Biden, November 16, 2016.
To tell to the Ukrainian people, and I'm still hoping that you can come maybe on the 21st of November on our anniversary of Revolution of Dignity, and that would be a very big delivery.
With regard to my coming on the 21st, as I told you, I could never come on the 21st. I was going to try to come immediately after in early December. But here's where I am now, and part of my answer to that depends on what was your conversation conversation
See,
with,
part of his answer depends on his conversation with Trump. That's a big problem. Big problem.
They are not, I'm not making I'm not being critical, but the incoming administration is very, very slow on.
Okay, so this was after.
On his conversation.
Okay, so this was after. Let me back this up. Hang on a second.
They didn't think they were going to win the election, so they did not.
This is very unprofessional conversation.
I'm not being critical, but they're.
Let me back that up again.
Was your conversation
See,
with
part.
But here's where I am now, and part of my answer to that depends on what was your conversation
See,
with
part of his answer.
Okay, his answer should not be contingent on what his conversation with Trump is. He should not even be demanding to know what his private conversation with Trump was. Like, that's not even appropriate.
with regard to my coming on the 21st. As I told you, I could never come on the 21st. I was going to try to come immediately after in early December. But here's where I am now, and part of my answer to that depends on what was your conversation
See,
with.
part of his answer depends on his conversation with Trump.
Okay.
That's a big problem.
Okay. First of all, when he had the conversation with Donald Trump, he was elected president. He was the incoming president. So he shouldn't have demanded to know, as the now former vice president, what his conversation with the now president was. Like, what? He shouldn't even done that. If he has plans as when he takes office, he's going to do such and such with this guy. That's none of his business, because they're leaving, right? That wasn't even right. But that's what he did.
They are not, I'm not being critical, but the incoming administration is very, very slow on.
His coming depends on his conversation with Trump.
For transition. Quite frankly, like most of America, they didn't think they were going to win the election, so they did not.
This is very unprofessional what he says next.
They didn't expect Trump to win, he just said. And why would they have fired the transition guy 1 week? Like, what were they trying to prevent, I guess Trump from seeing?
I'm able to tell their team about Ukraine. The truth of the matter is, the incoming administration doesn't know a great deal about the situation. So I'm meeting with the vice president-elect, who's the only one that has any foreign policy experience. You played enormous. You played the role in bringing peace to my country.
Yeah, they made a bunch of money together. That's what they did.
I don't plan on going away. I mean, as a private citizen, I plan on staying deeply engaged in the endeavor that you have.
He was leaving office.
He's gonna stay. He's gonna stay definitely involved, all right, because his family business is over there.
I'm worried because they don't know enough. They will think I'm trying to game them. They will think I am trying to put them in a corner. They will question my motive in going before they are fully briefed. And I'm sure you understand that. You're a good negotiator. At least that's my thinking at the time, and I've seen nothing to make me question
Okay, I'm gonna pause this. Okay, here's the next portion of the recorded conversation. This part is so rude. He says really unprofessional
Oh
things.
yeah, he had no business talking about the elected president to foreign presidents. It's so unprofessional.
I could be wrong, but I don't think that's appropriate.
We have
Ask
allied
this
relationships with other countries. You should not try to taint
his
the relationship
private
of an incoming president against him with foreign allies.
But he spoke
And he's trying to talk nice about Trump. Like, oh, I thought he was nice. He was warm. I thought he'd be colder. I mean, he's trying to speak very politely about Trump. And look what
and
Biden
then
does.
he starts dogging him. Unprofessional.
Why would you try to turn foreign nationals against our elected president? That's just wrong. Called him a dog. It's disgusting. While he's over there, criminal activities, him and his son. It's disgusting. And they were just
Well, it's very
outraged by his
unprofessional. I'm
behavior.
not sure if that's implying anything towards laundering of money.
No former president should be trying to turn a president of another country we're
Remember,
allies
this was
with
before they asked
against the president-elect. That's
the new
unacceptable.
president come in.
Anyways, so let me go on to the next video. So that was part one. That's part one. Go to part two. Part two. Here we go.
This is part 2 of the video about exposing Biden
some of
and his
this.
connection with the former president who was basically ousted.
I want to speed this up a little bit.
Prosecutor who was fired because when he started exposing this connection of
just
laundering
repeating
scheme,
the
it was
facts.
causing theft of basically Ukrainians' money, and you have to watch the first video to understand. So side. Anyway, so this is the continuation of it, and this is I left off where Biden and so this is a little bit of a repeat, and then it goes in to explain this will show the documents. Now, while the prosecutor that was exposing this according to him, he researched the company, that a U.S. department who had, I guess, been hired and contracted to fight corruption in Ukraine. Basically, what they did is squashed.
Hey, I'm covering this evidence of what Joe Biden did in Ukraine when he was being investigated, and the evidence that the prosecutor of Ukraine has. I just played a recorded conversation of Joe Biden with the former president of Ukraine. There's all kinds of evidence against Joe Biden for criminal activity in Ukraine from like 2009 to even after he was left. So this is in relation to the recent Hunter Biden prosecution, where it came out that the FBI had been quashing stuff, election interference with Facebook, and it really was involved with. It wasn't so much election interference quashing. The trial against Hunter Biden was about stuff that was in his laptop, but FBI testified that they knew what was in Hunter Biden's laptop, and so there was evidence that they were trying to quash the whole world from knowing. I salvaged this evidence from a website called BuyShoot. You won't find these videos anywhere on the internet. I pulled these, I salvaged these videos, and I said, this was back in, these are videos I did in 2022, and I said, this is evidence that Joe Biden was involved in criminal activity in Ukraine. And they did, in 2024, the same evidence that I shared in these videos ended up in congressional hearings.
This war, this battle start. It just so happened to start.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and skip through this. Trying to Recording conversation with Joe Biden
people
and
that-
the former Ukrainian president.
For
Let me
us-
skip through this. Trying to get to the
What do you
part.
compare Trump to a dog?
Very, very slow.
Okay, this was the recorded conversation that I literally just played.
See what led to these conversations and what this is about. I
He
hate
called Donald Trump a dog, basically.
I thought you were a very quite a big number of politicians that the Biden tariff administration too.
But he spoke, you know, very politely of Donald Trump, and then as soon as he speaks politely of him that he was acted fine, then he starts comparing him to a dog, Donald Trump to a dog. I mean, he's just disgusting. Joe Biden is just disgusting. These have documents, documents of financial laundering, money laundering.
No.
73% of the country voted against him, his corruption. Let me put this back to normal speed. All right, continuation of this. Zelensky, oh, okay, so they're talking about, this is when Zelensky just got elected, right? Speaks about the verdict. Wait a minute, let me see. Yeah. And the former U.S. Vice President lacks the Maldivian patriot, calls him the founding father of the nation, offers to write poems. He's talking about that conversation between Biden and the former president. You can write poems about Petro and Biden. With one clarification, we hope these poems will be written in the files of criminal cases. They wanted prosecution of Joe Biden. So that's why Joe Biden got involved to get this prosecutor prosecuted, because he knew he had evidence against him. Here we go, right here. We will tell you exactly how Zlochevsky, together with Poroshenko, according to the investigative journalists, stole money from Ukrainians by inflating tariffs.
This is going to tell you about how they
And this is how the Bidens made money, stealing through the shell companies. That was basically the money that Bidens were making. The next topic of the press conference is devoted to how Ukrainians are robbed on tariffs and how tariffs can be reduced.
Speed it up.
How is it possible to reduce the numbers in the bills of citizens by at least 25%? My fellow citizens will not be mistaken if they say the government and the corrupt officials earn from each family. We're talking about how they're robbing the Ukrainian citizens. The interest of an oligarch, an official, or a schemer sticks to each bill. These schemes are so profitable that the gray-haired Etchman himself, Petro, fed on them. He has a rare innate property, the ability to make money 3 times for one corrupt transaction. Let's remember how a man who appears to be Poroshenko happily reported to his senior friend, former U.S. Vice President Joe Biden, that he had raised tariffs not by 75% as Biden wanted. Biden's getting rich off of the backs of Ukrainian people, but as much as 100%. That should be human rights violations, guys. It's not even legal to raise tariffs in our country by 100%. That's insanity, but that's just how evil Joe Biden is. For this, Petro received $1 billion, which he successfully used at his enterprises in Ukroboronoprom after placing orders there. Okay, so here's the conversations between Biden. This is May 13th, 2016. The last conversation that I shared was on November. So this is May 2016.
Speeding it up.
What we're doing now, I think that within the last 3 weeks, we demonstrated real great progress in the reform. We voted in the parliament 100% tariff, despite of the fact that the IMF expected only 75%.
See, he's telling Biden, look what I did for you so you can make all this money off of them because of your investments in the energy over here.
Oh, you did a lot. I agree.
So he's wanting, so this is how it works. So Ukraine is dependent on other countries. They've been dependent on Putin when owes money to Russia or whatever. And Russia has this resources that feeds all through Ukraine and into Europe. Biden goes over there and starts interfering and mingling over these resources, the resources, oil and energy, and causing the tariffs to be raised by 100%. And who gets rich off of that? The companies, of which Biden's company family is invested in and owns. How did the plundered Ukrainians become known to us? Recently, our group of investigators was approached by the former head of security service of the energy business of one Ukrainian figure, Anatoly Shkerbylek. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, so I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that properly. He's known for his connections with Poroshenko, Kononenko, and Zlotfsky and his group of companies Teknova. These are CHPs rented for a pittance. From urban communities in Chernihiv, Sumy, Cherkasy, as well as Darnetska CHP in the city of Kyiv. He's also known for offshore schemes used for pumping money from citizens through tariffs. Vitaly Mikhailik, a former officer of the Security Service of Ukraine, is the person who worked for Shkerbylek and gave us compelling evidence of the robbery of people. He worked as the head of security service at Teknova from 2008 to 2017. For almost 10 years, he had access to schemes used to rob the population. And now we will make them public. So how the corrupt interest was put into bills and how Poroshenko and the company made money on the Ukrainians. And keep in mind, this is a bipartisan thing because even when Trump was in office, this corruption still continued over there. So how the corrupt interest was put into bills and how Poroshenko and the company made money on the Ukrainians. First, as you know, the head of the National Commission for State Regulation of Energy and Public Utilities, which is responsible for the numbers in people's bills, was a young and successful, arrogant former vice president of ICU, a representative Russian in the Russian Federation, the actual head of Lipinets factory. Dmitry Vovk. Petro himself, by his presidential degree, appointed Vovk to the post of the head of NCSREPU. Appointment of Vovk as the chairman of the National Commission for State Regulation of Energy and Public Utilities. He was to drive the energy market players into Petrol's stall, and also to create fashionable sounding and difficult to understand corruption formulas and schemes like Rotterdam at the beginning of 2017. Keep in mind, Trump's still in office, so I blame both administrations. The NCSREPU, headed by Vovk, carried out appropriate checks on the correctness of the calculation. But this was Biden benefiting from this. I don't know that, Trump had awareness of this. And plus, they if you saw in the earlier conversation between Biden and the former Ukrainian president, the guy who headed the transition team when Trump was going in to take office was fired. So, yeah, they have to transfer a lot of documents, and I think they withheld things to make sure that incoming registration, you want to talk about stuff being, there's no telling what he hid. So, in fairness, I'm speaking in fairness. The use of tariffs for heat and electricity based on results of which, under the results of operations for 2015-2018, UAH $232 million was withdrawn from the tariffs of the above. So keep in mind, Biden said he was going to stay in touch with his former president, even though he was no longer going to be vice president because Trump was coming in to take office. Oh, he stayed involved, all right. His company's made so much money over there.
I want to pause right here. I have actually heard them old videos talking about barely able to pay their utility bills.
Yeah, it was really sad. And the world did not get to know about this because the social media platforms hid this. YouTube is actually the only platform that I know of that even allows these videos to be on here, but now that it's all out in Congress, this stuff has been exposed 2 years later. But when this was on ByteShoot, this stuff was actively being suppressed by the FBI, and that just came out like literally today. There's an article talking in detail about how the feds in the prosecution of Hunter Biden, it came out during the trial, how the FBI and Biden were basically like going to social media platforms and training and directing them that you're going to hear stuff coming out. You're going to hear stuff coming out. It's all it's all fake. It's all fake. You're going to quash it. You're going to quash it. You're going to quash it. And that they admitted that they were pressured by claiming that it was all misinformation or, just quashing it to affect the ability of it to be seen. So YouTube currently, like right now, I'm mentioning this and I have 0 people in the video, and that's okay because I will just keep on, right? But there's like trigger words, that the algorithm knows. It's almost like you put a filter on your channel, right? And you say, okay, if I see these words anywhere in comments or whatever, it will just block it. Well, it's the same thing with videos, right? And that's how it works. So I do believe that it's still being quashed because that whole trial was really, in my opinion, just a deflection. They have so much evidence. And the fact that I saw Biden with my own eyes and heard him with my own ears in a video I saw on YouTube talking about how he's going to withhold resources unless he fired that prosecutor that was investigating him. I'm like, that just confirmed everything that these guys were saying. I mean, you could think, well, they could have fake documents. It could all be political. I heard Biden with my own eyes. Heard him. I mean, I saw him with my own eyes and heard him with my own ears talking about getting this prosecutor fired. He's such a loose mouth. I'm just sharing this because of what just recently came out that the feds did during the Hunter Biden trial. What came out during that trial, specifically, that they were in fact quashing. And we all knew it. A lot of people that go to ByteShoot because they're suppressing so much stuff on platforms. Took out working capital from Technova Group companies and money of our citizens stolen from Sumi, Chirini, and Churowski. Carried cash to Nabu's sap to make a valuable gift for McCullough's birthday, the termination of the criminal case against him. Let me go back to that date that was on there. See that? See this? July 16th, 2020. It's talked about how they celebrated participation of Olena Mazurova in a high-profile scandal related to the bribe. How they got it thrown out. They literally celebrated of terminating that criminal case against him that involved Joe Biden. Look at the date of this. Look at that date right there. July 16th, 2020. Okay. You don't hear about this in the media. I am TNT. Trustworthy news truth. Taking chicken from the bones is what more people in the world need to do. It's not about a political party for me. Sometimes parties just blur together sometimes. Let me remind you that this is precisely the case on Burisma, which the former prosecutor general Ruslan Rabiashapka at first did not see in the Unified Register pre-trial investigations. And then randomly found it, and after studying it, determined it to be hopeless. I bet these officials who stopped this guy from prosecuting Joe Biden, I bet they wish now that they had not done this compared what's now happening in Ukraine. And Putin has lost his mind with U.S. interference over there and just the corruption that this guy, prosecutor, while Biden's on YouTube bragging about how he got the prosecutor investigate him, fired. Now Ukraine is no more, basically. I bet they wish that they had prosecuted that guy. I bet they wish they had gone after Joe Biden. Joe Biden is in control of their defense now. Joe Biden is the one who has been in power to give or not give while he's, you know what I mean? The very guy who caused 100% tariffs on these Ukrainian citizens is now the one who's in control on what defense that they get or don't get. Yeah. Millions had to leave Ukraine. Millions no longer have a country. They were forced to leave.
It's not just their money being taken off, also Americans.
Let's back that up. Not six, but 50 million. Let's say this again. Kononensko's people, Mazurova and Mishchenko, are famous ex-employees of the State Fiscal Service. They had colossal experience, were one of the best schemers in the country, not only in Ukraine, but also abroad. Chief lawyer of Burisma. These companies, remember, they were testified by the witnesses, whistleblowers owned by Biden.
It's not just their money being taken off, also Americans. Coal's supply schemes, rotten damp South African coal and coal from Pennsylvania. All these schemes are nothing more than advertising campaign to raise the price of coal, subsequently the basis of raising tariffs for Ukrainians. Essence scheme is somewhat different. Please show this scheme. Okay, let me pause this right quickly. So this is another chart that they're showing the connections of how the people are connected and with American companies and also our own coal, our own resources being affected also. The two areas that...
Okay, see these right here? These were the two areas that what I showed earlier where that survey was done about that they were basically They had gone in there and they had implanted propaganda to take over these two areas, and a lot of it had to do with the energy and the coal and the resources. That Putin was tired of having United States former former vice president going in and basically robbing the people and just meddling with the money and the resources.
Putin
So this
came
is the
in to
chart.
take over. He had
Shows the
very
connections.
specific reasons to create dissension in
See this right here? See these companies owned by the Biden family and how they're connected? Cheap gas. And then 100% tariff increase
those two.
approved by Parliament because the former president of Ukraine conspired with Biden to cause to happen so that he could make more money. And he paid off the former president. It was basically, you scratch my back and they worked together. It was a scheme.
And now he wants control.
And the
over those
FBI
cities.
are guilty. They did this. The FBI did this because they protected Biden. Made sure. Not only did they conspire to protect Biden, they conspired to manipulate illegal acts with social media platforms to prevent people from finding out.
Mayors of those cities are corrupt and are involved in this.
Okay. Sold and fed the idea of energy independence to Ukrainian citizens and patriotic society, presenting it to
Now he
Rotterdam,
wants control over those cities
Pennsylvania coal wrapper.
where the
But what
mayors
that may have, I don't know if that's an actual proper translation, but how the scheme worked. According to Cargo Customs Declaration, the consignor exporter was a company from the Russian Federation. The consignee was a CHP plant in Ukraine, but the parties responsible for the financial settlement were the shell companies in Ukraine or non-residents, aka the Biden family and other people. They ensured the inflated price of coal, which is added to the tariff approved by the NCSREPU for the CHP. Also, these shells companies served as a tool for withdrawing the margin and further unobstructed transfer of funds to the accounts of the scheme participants, aka Biden family, unnoticed by Ukrainian law enforcement officers and fiscal authorities. That's what the whistleblowers were talking about earlier. They were handling the money. They were a secret money laundering services, if you will. According to available data, the so-called margin average is about 18 to 25 per ton of coal, with the volume of supplies to the CHPs mentioned above amounting to 1.4 million tons per year.
see the coal and the energy that affects.
The shadow profitability from the above schemes amounted to about 30 million per year. In turn, the overestimation of the price of coal for CHP made it possible to overestimate the consumer tariff for the population for the end products of the same CHP, heat and electricity. It's made, this money is paid by the Ukrainians, first from coal and then from the tariff. So here's the documents. These facts laid out in the statement by Vitaly, who worked for Skripilak. He filed the statement back in May of 2020 to the Prosecutor General office. Keep in mind, Trump was in office then. I'm surprised. I don't understand how this continued while Trump was in office, even if they hid things from him during the transition, because they fired the transition team
This guy
director.
was no longer in office. Nobody did anything about these documents and this evidence. They just swept it under the rug.
Yep. FBI quashed this, and I believe is still quashing it.
So you remember that when they had these.
As a result of which criminal cases, and there's the number of the criminal cases in Part 2, Article 209, and Part 5, Article 191 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine were registered.
And then
They had charges pressed against Joe Biden. And that's why he and other U.S. politicians sought to come up with this banana trade company who was going to create a test to that all prosecutors had to take, which they had no certification, no experience whatsoever, no legitimate authorization to create such tests, which he refused to take, and then got him fired. And then Biden brags about it in a video seen on YouTube about he was going to withhold resources unless he got him fired, and bragged about getting him fired. Got the prosecutor fired, who was filing criminal charges against Biden.
Came up with him explaining
How they steal the population using gas. So that's the coal scheme. So as you know, besides coal, CHP also uses gas for its operations. So here, Petro also showed, to be honest, I applaud standing,
said that they're not real.
his ingenuity. Everyone remembers the sensational information brought by TSN journalists about the Vienna meeting of Kononenko and Zlochevsky in early 2017. Keep in mind, Trump's in office.
That's all they did.
Biden's over there doing all kinds of criminal activity. Even while Trump's in office, everyone thought and wondered about the purpose of the meeting, and the purpose was simple: to receive gas from Klovetsky's Burisma that is cheaper compared to NAFCO GAZ. Biden's gas. Take it away for free is a bribe for loyalty. Let me remind you that Burisma is such a powerful company that its leadership included the son of former Vice President Hunter Biden. And the Biden family received millions from it for incomprehensible services, and for reality for a political cover. So Joe Biden was getting money from his son. And using his son, which just got a slap on the wrist for some deflected charges about guns, in reality, it was all about this.
And here's the thing, okay. So now, if you remember, this prosecutor, okay, and then this investigation was quashed. So how does this affect now what Biden? He is now over the Ukraine is involved in this scheme. So why is Russia being allowed?
Evidentiary volume of documents relating to the operations.
Why was the delay in the?
Including copies of the black cash that I talked about earlier, ledger. They literally have the black cash ledger. They even have that. Consignment of notes and so on. We work in the Deputy Association, tariff minus 25%, stop corruption. We continue to collect facts, documents, and information. I appeal to mayors and deputies of Sumy, Tarasky, Trinity, and Kyiv with the proposal to immediately return to communal ownership of the heat and power plants. And sadly, they did not, and now they are at war. And literally millions of people no longer even have a country to pay tariffs in. Which are rented for pittance, and to review tariffs, reducing them by 25% before the start of the heating season. So they didn't listen. They didn't listen. They allowed this corruption from the United States to continue, and now they don't even have a country anymore. The numbers in people's bills should be, and it's costing Americans many, many, many billions of dollars to defend in this war that Biden was contributed to. And people's bills should be reduced. It's impermissible to rob the people of Ukraine. That's right. So I shared this in 2022, spring of 2022. The American curators from demo corruption demanded full control in various areas. Government, state companies, banking, and much more. We have already talked a lot about this at previous press conferences. Now keep in mind, these are Ukrainians. They're not Russians. This isn't Russian propaganda. These are Ukrainians talking about fighting corruption in their own country, being led by the Bidens. The only obstacle here was the law enforcement agencies. The Democrats began to establish their own agencies like NABU, or tried to establish control over other law enforcement agencies. We'll tell you how it all happened in the next part of our press conference. I give the floor to Konstantin Kulik. And I got to take a break and shut this door. So let me pause this. I got to go shut this door. So let me take a break here. If anybody's stopping in, I'm taking a break, and I'm going to show the rest of this video Basically, these are videos that are nowhere on the internet. If you see these videos on my channel, you are more than welcome to make copies of them. I encourage you to do so. You will not see these videos anywhere on the internet because they have scraped the internet of these videos. And what was recent, the reason I'm doing these videos now is because of what recently was just revealed by, I'm not sure which media source it was off the top of my head, but like literally today, yesterday or today, the article comes out in the details of exactly how the feds were, and the Biden administration was forcing social media platforms to squash the things that was found in Hunter Biden's laptop. And they were trying to basically interfere with the election, this was back in 2020. So what happened in this recent trial that just went to trial this year with Hunter Biden was it was just various charges. They don't talk about the other stuff that's in there in his laptop. To me, it's just all deflection. But basically, what they did is they went to Facebook, Google, Twitter, and these various organizations and said, you're going to hide this stuff that's going to be released because the New York Post, and there's going to be some release, and it's propaganda. We believe that it's Russian propaganda that is going to be just trying to interfere with our election against, our sitting president, or talking about his family and this and that. So we're not going to allow you to release this stuff about Hunter Biden because we don't even think any of it's true. And they'd already authenticated that it was true. So the FBI interfered with the election in September and October of November 2020. They quashed evidence against the Biden family to make sure it did not affect Biden becoming president or staying. Yeah. So, that just came out. And Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg admitted, okay, yeah, we were made to suppress stuff that could have affected the election. And, well, we're going to take action and be careful about that from here on out. All right, then. This is what this video is about. All right. I'm showing all kinds of evidence from the Ukrainian prosecutor and whistleblowers of Biden. Stuff you're not going to see anywhere except for here. Unofficial news source, TNT, trustworthy news, truth, basically is what I present.
In Ukraine.
Misappropriated the money of either Ukrainian or American citizens in the case of prosecute. And let me go back and say that again. How the Americans even are being robbed by Biden. The secondary task, as always, was to misappropriate the money of either Ukrainian or American citizens. Okay. In the case of Prosecutor General's office, the funds of international technical assistance from the United States were misappropriated and laundered. And I'm sure any attorney who wants to sue Biden, all you gotta do is contact this guy. He will get you all the documents you need. He will be more than happy to assist you. This is how the scheme for the sabotage, let me back that up, sabotage of Ukrainian prosecutor's office by the demo corruptionists look like.
See, those documents have never been said old or not valid.
Now, I shared this stuff back in 2022. This is the use of U.S. taxpayers' money. Inefficient use of U.S. taxpayers' money is what he's saying. According to the procurement plan for the reform of the Prosecutor's Office of Ukraine, in particular, a little more than $7.38 million were provided for the continued support to the criminal justice reform in Ukraine project. Our reformers spent $744,000 on hotels, receptions, posting ads like looking for new prosecutors. And they created this banana trade company, which they're getting ready to tell you about, all so they can get rid of this prosecutor who was investigating the Bidens. We've already told you about this at the previous press conferences. We will not repeat ourselves. Remember the reformers, I will not say stolen, but rather used, almost 1 million out of more than 7 million. Who was responsible for the so-called reform? The first responsible person is Deputy Prosecutor General Vitaly Casco, who had already made plenty of reforms in terms of appropriation of official housing and was considered fraud. The first responsible person is second is the head of International Corporation Department of the GPO, Paulina Kitts, who transferred from Navy in due time. We will all remember how Paulina, as an officer of NABU, leaked to foreign intelligence services the information that constitutes the secret of the pretrial investigation, as well as personal data of the GPO leadership. Now, I'm not sure who those foreign intelligence services were, but I suspect that it was the FBI of the United States of America about this pretrial investigation, and they concocted this scheme that now is being discussed in media articles about how there's going to be something coming out, and we're gonna just call it fake, and you Facebook and you other social media platforms are just gonna label it as junk and not allow it to be seen, and you're gonna quash it, you're gonna label it as misinformation, and on it went. They conspired with social media giants to basically quash this, because somebody leaked to the FBI in the US, oh, we got a problem. They found our stuff out and they're gonna tell the world and American citizens. A potential fraudster and a spy decide how to use millions of dollars that were provided to the Ukrainians for reform. They decide the executive recertification program should be the International Development Law Organization in Ukraine, headed by this organization, registered in Rome, has a branch in Hague, and scandals all over the world. Case of Afghanistan ended final negative conclusion regarding at the request of U.S. Senator. Now, I want to back up right here. I shared in one video the actual letter from that U.S. Politician that was involved in this. At the request of a U.S. Senator, the Office of the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction under the U.S. government.
This is when the U.S. got involved.
Began an investigation into the allocation by the U.S. Department of State of $47.8 million for JTTP.
Make sure they got rid of this guy who was exposing everything, and that's exactly what they did.
As you can see on the screen, here we go. In 2013, Seagar sent a devastating letter to Secretary of State John Kerry regarding the JTTP project. Seagar found many violations by IDLO. It says, I write to alert you, to serious deficiencies related to the Afghanistan Justice Training, I can't really read that, program, hang on a second, get it.
Exactly what they did.
Administered by the Department of State, Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, in the course of performing the audit of the rule of law programs managed by the INL. Seagar became aware of INL's sole source to the International Development Law Organization for Afghan Justice Letter Training Services. The word does not appear to contain basic provisions that would allow INL to ensure
So
proper
I'm going to stop
monitoring.
here. Stay tuned for part 3.
Okay, so now I'm going to go into the part 3 video that I did. I'm trying to put all this together. Okay, now this video right here that I did 2 years ago has the links to all 3 parts.
So I'm starting on part 3 of this.
This was
Russian Biden.
This isn't better. Okay, so this was the U.S. Senator who got involved.
Really behind the scenes, real reason they wanted the finance
Office of Special Investigator General for Afghanistan.
So the Russians could take it over in the Crimea. Okay, this is part 3 in the description. I will put part 1 and part 2. Watch those first. This video is.
And once I get done with this live stream, I will put the links to all 3 videos in the description.
The link.
It's sad that this still to this day is not getting any visibility because they're continuing to quash it. But you know what? I believe in the power of the Lord, and He will hold them accountable, to include the feds,
There's a blackout on this
for their part on this.
American media. Fox. I uploaded the first part 1.
And that was proven in the case, the prosecution of Hunter Biden, when FBI admitted that they in fact did black it out from the social media platforms. Fact, y'all. I said this in 2022, way before the FBI said it in the court. So what I said was proven during the Hunter Biden prosecution
But at any
trial.
rate, this is continuation, and so it might be like a minute that I've already approved. But basically, there was U.S. senator that went into Ukraine, so-called, was supposed to be involved in
You won't see these videos anywhere on the internet. You will only see them here.
Supposed to be attacking corruption within the Ukrainian government. But what they really did was, as it is alleged, help cover up corruption. This prosecutor that's given this presentation
Sorry, I'm not
explained
on
how
my
they
tripod right
basically
now.
hired this banana trade company.
There we
Literally.
go.
This company had no experience whatsoever.
The banana trade company scam.
Creating
Oh
a
my
test.
gosh.
The prosecutors had to take
No shame. They had no shame for what they
The
did.
worthiness is that's ridiculous it is, because you have prosecutors who are licensed and not been, experienced for many years, and you have these freaking students.
Makes
who
me
are
sad that
so
people
this is
just don't even care what's happening in our government
situation that they were
anymore.
doing to just
We need
get
more
rid of
people that
certain
care.
people who are exposing things. And so this prosecutor
They're
refused to
just too
take it.
distracted.
And he said, no, I'm not going to take that test. So they let him go. So instead of letting somebody else come in and go after all the documents and the evidence that he had collected, they just swept it under the rug, which is
Okay, I'm going to fast forward through this. I want to get to the
reform
evidence.
of money laundering. That invest. This was
Okay, here we go.
save space and time. Slow that down. That's way too fast. This was
This entity was selected executive programs to reform our prosecutor's office in Ukraine. The key task was test the PGO so that the only people they needed would remain in the leadership. So basically they came up with this fake idea to get rid of the ones they don't want in there, and they created this literally a banana trade company was oversight of this test that they came up with. It was a complete scam.
see part 1 and 2.
It frightened even the IDLO, which successfully misappropriated funds in Afghanistan. Therefore, IDLO being hired under the contract to conduct the reform was not personally involved in this process in Ukraine. IDLO subcontracted the assignment to another company. Using the money international technical system provided to Ukraine, IDLO entered an agreement with Symmetrics Ukraine LLC.
Testing was
The
created
subject
by
agreement was anonymous testing a prosecutor of the Prosecutor General's office. Ostensibly, this was an aptitude test.
talk about a joke. This aptitude test they demanded he take.
Banana Trade Company created an aptitude test. Logically, suppose you have decided to test working and experienced prosecutors. In that case, such a test should have been entrusted only to authoritative, certified scientific. Oh my gosh! In America, you have the United States. You have the American Bar Association. Each state has a bar association that provides tests of people to determine whether or not they're competent in the law. But they came up with a banana trade company, had no experience of anything in the law, to give aptitude tests to prosecutors to determine who they're going to get rid of and use that as their way to get rid of people that they don't want. This was their way of getting rid of those who were trying to fight corruption. Anyways, such should only be trusted with an actual legit company with extensive experience because the quality of the staff prosecutor general's office, the central law enforcement agent of Ukraine, depends on it. Symmetrics Ukraine, of course, was not that kind of company. It was created in 2018 without any experience in this business. The company was chosen for one contract to sabotage. That's their goal, to sabotage, guys.
West did this.
The staff of the GPO. As we can see, as soon as these tests were completed, Prosecutor General Ria Bashapka destroyed all the documentation. I'll tell you about this a little bit more about this a little later. The company changed its owner to a person whose main line of business is non-store retailing, trade in tents at the bazaar. A tent seller of bananas is who they just snatched up to create this company. The reform of the Prosecutor General's office was carried out by a company that today sells bananas from a tent in the Kyiv region. That's the owner of Symmetrics Ukraine LLC. Unbelievable.
Why didn't they send equipment to stop this invasion?
A tent banana seller they used to create a company to determine whether or not prosecutors who are prosecuting people can keep their job. That's how insane it was over here. There's every reason to consider Symmetrics Ukraine LLC a company created for a single task, which in practice was used as a tool for withdrawing U.S. technical assistance funds.
Delayed. That's a conflict of interest.
In October 2019, Symmetrics Ukraine LLC had no official labor relations with psychologists. That is, the company did not have and could not provide any certificate confirming the availability of experts of appropriate qualifications who have sufficient knowledge and experience to test prosecutors. Well, the psychologists are a banana trade, and banana trade are two different things, right? IDLO chooses this particular company to test the prosecutors. In turn, Symmetrics Ukraine begins to formalize labor relations with individuals urgently.
So there's really no innocence in either one of them, in my mind.
Many of them are under 20 years old. By design, the Prosecutor General's office should be and is being tested on the paper by a group of students who sell bananas from tents in Kyiv region.
Or creating some stupid test.
At the same time, the fund for the remuneration of labor relations amounts to hundreds of thousands. This is how crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. They made a joke of fighting corruption, guys.
And that's why they fired him. And therefore, you're not allowed to just...
Oh boy. So, Serhiy Shmelinya, a member of the committee for the selection candidates for positions in SAP, immediately after the start of testing in October 2019.
On social media, because they'll say, oh no, they dropped that.
The necessary people passed the test at GPO. All the rest went to the test according to the general principle, and of course they did not pass the test because it was designed specifically to get rid of people that they did not want in power. It was impossible for a person with normal logic to pass it. The record evidences this all. Recognition of the fact of the impossibility to pass the test without prior knowledge of the principles of its design. Prosecutor General's office was sabotaged from the outside. What you see today, I now give the floor to Andrei Turkic. Everything my colleague said about has long ceased to seem like a conspiracy theory. I want to draw your attention to the fact that a letter from Stephanie Holmes, the head of law enforcement section for the U.S. Embassy, to Prosecutor General Yerna Veneditova was leaked to the internet, in which
U.S.
Holmes
Embassy
provides a list
leaked to the internet.
of Holmes'
How am I positive?
independent experts who will be included leaked to the internet in the personnel commissions for the selection of Ukrainian prosecutors, and also reminds instructions in the U.S. charge d'affaires in Ukraine, Christina Kivien, to unquestionably follow the scenario of the so-called reform of prosecutor's office from the Ukraine that was designed overseas by U.S. officials. I want to draw your attention to the fact that we are investigating the use of funds provided for the reform of the law enforcement agencies of Ukraine in the form of technical assistance, as well as attempts to block such investigations, and also attempts of gaining external control over the law enforcement system in at least 7 areas. We are conducting these investigations and will not stop. Speaking of Christina Kivien, according to my statement to law enforcement agencies in April 2020, criminal proceedings in the case were registered to the fact of embezzlement of international.
See, that's, remember that? There was an investigation started in Ukraine against
Technical system funds by officials of the IDLO, Representative Office in Ukraine of Symmetrics Ukraine LLC, during the reforms of the Prosecutor's Office of
They
Ukraine.
made sure they freaking squashed it. And this is how they got it squashed. Creating this so-called testing in Ukraine to take it. Oh no.
To date, according to the investigative journalist, due to the pressure from the U.S. Charge d'Affaires in Ukraine, Christina Kivien, on the leadership of the Prosecutor General's Office, the PGO, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs in August of 2020, in violation of the criminal procedural legislation, the proceedings under this case was closed. Remember that thing I showed you earlier that they were celebrating? And even without questioning me, as an applicant. In this regard, I turn to the PGO with a statement of criminal offense under Article 343 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, interference in the activities of a law enforcement prosecutor. Statement of criminal offense related to illegal interference in the operation of law enforcement officers, requiring the registration of criminal proceedings under the legislation of Ukraine. This is where Zelensky went really wrong. This is where Zelensky basically he just didn't do anything because he took office, and you had all this stuff going on and this guy complaining, and so now he doesn't have a country. Every inch of that country is being fought for now. According to the lawyer, there's already a court decision which obliges the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine to enter the information to the Unified Register of Pretrial.
In part 1, you will see that the 2 areas, Zelensky and the other one, those 2 areas that was taken over.
And what's so problematic about this scheming and Biden interfering with those coal and gas and resources over there is because Russia, a lot of that goes through Ukraine and to Europe. And they're interconnected. They're interdependent on each other. And Ukraine owes money to Russia. Ukraine, even though it's independent, is very dependent on other countries. You can't really say you're an independent country when you're so dependent on all the other countries for even survival. You're not really independent. You know what I mean? But that's what they are. And so, Zelensky, he just basically inherited a mess, but he wasn't really trying to do anything to correct the mess that was caused. This guy's still going on about what happened before Zelensky took over. Zelensky just didn't do anything. Anyways, he's paying for it now.
Prevented that invasion.
Russia's like, I'm taking over Ukraine because y'all ain't going to keep messing with my resources, and this little country over here that owes me all this money and all this interference, I'm taking over. And you ain't gonna be messing with it no more. That's what he's doing. As you can see on the screen, this is evidenced by a letter from George Kent, who actually obstructed the legitimate... Wait a minute. April 4th, that was 2016.
I don't know if you can read that.
No. Thank you, sir, for your letter dated March 29, 2016, and the clarifications of your remarks. I'm answering on behalf... Yeah, I can't read that. We provided 200,000 organization... Yeah, I can't read that. Anyways.
No, this is so wrong.
A letter from George Kent to the Prosecutor General's Office of Ukraine demanding the investigation be terminated. He obstructed the legitimate activities of law enforcement agencies to investigate. The U.S. basically interfered with the corruption to protect Biden and antagonized a crazy man with a big country and a lot of nuclear weapons to go in there and now invade this country, making instantly millions of Ukrainians homeless, slaughtering, and yeah, now taking control of all these resources that Biden was like
That's American taxpayers' money.
interfering with.
I know some lawyer needs to...
He's like, if anybody's going to be putting tariffs on Ukraine and making money off it, he's gonna, basically. The investigation and actions of Anti-Corruption Action Center, based on the assistance they have received from us, is similarly misplaced. Let me back that up. End of quote. The investigation into the actions... Here we see... Can't... I'll get back that up. And... oh, I'm losing... I think my battery's going down.
Class action.
He covered the scheme of embezzlement of U.S. taxpayers' money. He illegally interfered with activities of law enforcement agency of Ukraine.
And Biden,
And given George Kent is currently an officer of the U.S. Department of State, and IDLO still performs the function of dispersing U.S. funds, there is reason to believe
getting the many millions of dollars in this Russian
there's
coal
reason to
takeover
believe
is the very
that George
one
Kent is actively
having
contributing
control.
to the continued illegal misuse and money laundering through IDLO and Symmetrics Ukraine LLC. So basically, he accused a U.S. official of corruption, basically. Okay, so I need to find my charger. I'm going to put this phone on a charger because I think the battery's going down. So, hang on a second. There we go. That might help a little bit. I don't know what I do with my mouse. Oh, it's over here. Sorry, guys. I'm getting situated here. All right. Okay. There we go.
what weapons went in there that could stop that invasion into those cities. Anyways, that's my opinion.
Ровно на следующий день после отставки генерального прокурора Украины Виктора Шокина. Однако освоение материально-технической помощи – это только вершина айсберга, которая скрыта в данном конкретном кейсе. Даже Рябошапка понимал, что все было настолько бестолково, безграмотно и безобразно, и что его начнут догонять по закону. Поэтому, когда стало...
You see where they had blown up that bridge and people had to walk around it to, to flee and stuff? They could have stopped this invasion had they used the military to blow up roads. When they first started convoying in to Russia, they could have, if they'd had the equipment to just blow up the roads, they would have never been able.
Он уничтожил всю документацию по тестированию. 7 февраля 2020 года по поручению Офиса Генерального прокурора было уничтожено 449 килограмм материалов аттестации прокуроров и следователей Генеральной прокуратуры. На слайде показано, как заметали следы освоения материально-технической.
Okay, so the
Reports
test
of this is reports of destruction of the test.
destroyed the test, Right.
So they can't challenge it. They destroy it. The evidence
There's
of
enough
their
evidence.
scheme.
Okay, for an investigation. People have to demand it.
от США.
Technical system for the United States. We'll back that up.
Investigation.
Slideshow
People
shows
have
a
to
trace of
demand it.
embezzlement of technical system from the United States were covered.
Какие выводы из этой истории? Первое. Внешнее управление полностью разрушает правоохранительную систему Украины. Второе. Часть опытных и квалифицированных специалистов, которые работали на Украину, а не заокеанских хозяев, были выброшены из профессии.
God saw it
В
though.
связи с этим мы передаем правоохранительным органам имеющиеся у нас документы, а незаконно уволенным следователям, прокурорам предлагаем защитить в суде свое право служить народу Украины, используя имеющиеся в нашем распоряжении материалы. Выявленные факты внешнего управления Украины, нарушение отдельными должностными лицами посольства США,
Individual
государственного
officials of U.S.
суверенитета
Embassy.
Украины, раскрытие фактов тайны досудебного расследования посольства США и управление действиями независимого государственного правоохранительного органа НАБУ, систематическое и незаконное вмешательство в деятельность Генерального прокурора Украины и офиса Генерального прокурора должностными лицами посольства США. Все это является нарушением международных законов и сопровождается постоянными скандалами. Таким образом, с учетом указанных фактов сообщаю, что сегодня я обращаюсь с исковым заявлением в административный суд с требованием признать противоправной бездеятельность Министерства иностранных дел и требую обязать МИД внести официальное заявление НОТу о недопустимости вмешательства отдельными лицами посольства США во внутренние дела Украины. Второй иск мы подаем, он касается украденных у украинских граждан миллиардов долларов США. В этом иске, в том числе, будут заключаться требования обязать государственные органы Украины расследовать обстоятельства легализации денежных средств в размере 6 миллиардов долларов США, которые в период 2012-2014 год были
American Investment Fund
американские
stolen from Ukrainians.
Таким образом, мы готовим обращение в суд с исковым требованием признать бездеятельность НБУ, Кабинета министров, НАБУ, АРМы неправомерной и несоответствующей Конституции и законам Украины, а также принять меры, направленные на установление местонахождения незаконно выведенных средств и возврат их в госбюджет. Это не менее 13 миллиардов долларов США. Теперь, как я обещал о санкциях, хочу, чтобы наши граждане правильно поняли, что своим фактическим решением о введении санкций в отношении меня министр финансов США Мнучин заявил буквально следующее. Мы требуем остановить расследование и публичное освещение фактов коррупции и грабежа украинских граждан. Факты выведения наворованных и отмытых средств с территории Украины через разные юрисдикции, в том числе в США. И мы в лице Минфина не собираемся возвращать 13 миллиардов ворованных средств в Украину. Поскольку эти средства находятся в распоряжении нужных компаний и имеющих надежных лоббистов, покрывающих воровство и коррупцию с участием украинских олигархов и беглецов из АЗУ Януковича и АЗУ Порошенко. Наш ответ товарищу Мунчину простой. Верните деньги украинцам в бюджет. Это 13 миллиардов долларов. И оставьте себе свои санкции. Нам не нужны ваши кредиты и десант прожорливых советников и грантоедов.
Gluttonous advisors and grant eaters. Yeah, that it. That it. Yeah, man, that's it. Whoop, whoop. That's it. Whoop, whoop.
Внешнего управления в экономику и бюджет Украины, а также улучшение качества жизни наших граждан. Спасибо, мы готовы ответить на вопросы.
That be it, y'all.
Ну, неужели никто не
Thank
спросит,
you,
как
gentlemen.
товарища Порошенко с темником? Неужели
This
никто
is
не
videos
спросит про
that you will
агента
not see anywhere on the internet because the feds have quashed this.
Да, Андрей, во-первых, такой вопрос.
But anyway,
Значок вашего агента расскажет. 10 лет идет. Потому что второй, как вы лично относитесь к
can't hide the truth.
у вас
Darkness is not darker than light. Because where there's light, there's no darkness.
In that case.
It's not complete darkness. So
если были серьезны,
there's that, y'all. There's
должны
that.
сопровождаться записками сенатора.
Thank you.
Должны сопровождаться фактажом, документами, то, о чем мы говорим.
It's hard to tell how many people's watching because it says 0, but how do I get a like? Well, there you go. That's weird. I had a like before I had a watcher. Weird. Anyways, I never know until I end the stream. He was an MP in the faction of the party of Region Yanukovych, who in principle is doing well with Russia in 2010. And today he lives in Russian Federation. Turns out logically, again, according to the U.S. Department of Treasury, if I was deported from the Russian Federation in 2017, As I understand, under the request of one of the oligarchs against whom the investigation was conducted, if I with the private visa in the United States, then I'm also CIH. Oh my word.
Ну, теперь то, что касается интересного вопроса, ведь по визе. Мне бы хотелось, конечно, похвалиться масштабностью мести. То есть мести, которая была, да, то есть это из-за памяти.
The situation with the visas, we're told, we try to understand this for a certain period of time using the official means.
Неофициально нам из двух мест
We were told from two sources of visa withdrawals connected to my work with Giuliani on the investigation of 20 cases of theft of technical assistance. So they interfered with this guy in so many different ways, trying to expose Biden.
Нам объяснили, что оказывается, все банально и просто, что шаляфа. Оказывается, это была просьба Шипулина Кристине Квит. И оказывается, что отношения
I'm going to
Шипулина
pause
и
here.
Кристины Квит более чем близкие.
So you always have to keep in mind, even when they have a lot of evidence that's present, that you always have to be aware of who you can trust. And so I asked God, I said, God, you know, I just want the truth. And I ran across this video of Joe Biden, none other than sitting there smirking, arrogantly bragging about how he got the prosecutor fired and was withholding resources unless he fired him. Literally said that openly. That was investigating him. And that just solidified it for me in my mind. When he would arrogantly brag like that about getting a prosecutor fired and withholding anything. And so his own recorded voice saying what he did in the recorded conversations between him and the former Ukraine president.
Вторая информация, то, что касается вот этих санкций. Опять же, нас проинформировали, что эти санкции были щедро спонсированы из Украины. Одним из олигархов. И это не Пинчук. Этот олигарх имел совместный бизнес в энергетике с Петром Алексеевичем Порошенко, и проходя в одном из кейсов,
Oligarch and joint business.
And also by the very fact that it has now been proven via the Hunter Biden prosecution that the FBI did in fact, and Biden administration did in fact, interfere with what is allowed to be revealed via social media.
That went in and took over Crimea. He's the one that initiated all that. The Kremlin.
иногда вот такие кейсы, как Кристина и Шипулин, и вот этот олигарх, они всплывают достаточно неожиданно.
Well, America are trying to act like, you know, they're all upset.
Asked the resident Ukraine Kyiv, can the president be held responsible in any way
Forget what government
for his action? All 100% respondents said that he would never go to jail and never be held accountable because in this country it's not possible. When you have so much money, you cannot end up behind bars. Tell us, please, when can we expect this?
This evidence was uncovered because God
When the
wanted
positions will be held by professionals who have experience.
and he preserved that evidence. That evidence is not going away. And then Zelensky,
Our
instead of
president
getting in
now
there and saying,
resembles a bunny.
you know, like,
He didn't do anything either.
telling him to deal with it.
But see, Zelensky did not open his eyes, and now he's paying for it. But his eyes are open now.
For it now. He's paying for it now because the guy that he protected is the very guy who delayed getting the weapons to Ukraine. He could have helped stop that invasion. He could have easily stopped them cowboys from coming in. All they do is blow them roads up. You can't bring in hundreds of thousands of soldiers.
Okay,
You know, if they can't
that's
convoy
pretty
using
much
the
it.
roads,
Again, these are videos
what was
that you
presented to him through documents
and
that
stuff you won't see anywhere. So there was an article today. I'm going to my I'll find that. Let me find it. Go into my content. The one that I just uploaded today. Where is it? Did I not upload it? Oh, man. Nope. I may have not uploaded it yet. But anyways, this was a poll done on the Ukrainian citizens, and it was very interesting. I will put the links to these videos in the description of this video once it's done. I will put this if you're interested. And, yeah. So, that whole, oh my Gershki, if you're paying attention to what happened just recently, stating that the admissions, the absolute admissions of Mark Zuckerberg, of how FBI did this. The FBI. Hang on a second. I'm going to find that article right quick. Bear with me. Let me find that article. I'll just go into my history. Recently closed. Here it is. I found it. All right. Okay. So this is an article by National Review, how the FBI spent a year preparing platforms to censor the Biden story, withheld info on the laptop's authenticity. And yeah, so I'm actually doing a video, going to put all these videos together, right? He withheld information from companies when they wanted to know whether or not the laptop was authentic, despite knowing the laptop was real long before the 2020 election. The FBI authenticated the Biden laptop archive in 2019, but the Bureau met with tech platforms over 30 times beginning in early 2020 to call it fake news allegations that the Biden family traded off Joe Biden's name to make a fortune from foreign business deals. According to a bombshell House Judiciary Committee report obtained by National Review. Now, keep in mind, this is today. I shared this stuff back in 2022, guys. Keep that in mind, please. This is from today. Okay, this was today. All right? Of course, the FBI declined to comment on the report. In many of these meetings between federal agency and big tech, the FBI raised topic of potential hack and leak operations amid conversation about electric security, potential foreign influence operations. Report reads in response, some platforms even adopted new content moderation policies specifically designed to address hacked materials. The FBI obtained Hunter Biden laptop hard drive and verified the device by cross-referencing it to Biden's Apple iCloud identification. IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley testified last year during Hunter Biden's gun trial. The prosecution presented the physical version of Biden's laptop and brought FBI Special Agent Erica Jensen to the stand to explain how it was verified. She said detailed explanation of how FBI obtained the device after receiving a tip from Delaware computer store and cross-referenced its serial number to Biden's iCloud storage accounts for the devices. The FBI used forensic tools to retrieve data from the laptop archive after getting a search warrant to examine the device. After authenticating the device, the FBI team on Hunter Biden briefed the FBI's task force multiple times because of the case connection to Ukraine. Months before the laptop story broke, the FITF was aware that FBI possessed Biden's laptop. Multiple FITF officials testified to the Judiciary Committee, according to the report. Nonetheless, the FBI and other federal agencies began holding meetings with social media platforms. They don't say all of them, but yeah, I'm sure YouTube was in there. It does say that Google was in there, which owns YouTube, to ensure they were ready for a hack and leak operation connected to Biden's business dealings with Ukrainian energy company Burisma Holdings, which is what I've discussed in this live stream. All that evidence that but it doesn't even go into all of those details of what you've seen. You've seen the actual behind-the-scenes story of what they just barely even mention here. In the videos that I share, they're still blacked out on media across the globe. Then I salvaged those videos of those Everything you've seen in this live stream, I salvaged the videos because they were removed, right? Nowhere on the internet will you find these videos that I shared with you today. There were two different categories of meetings between the social media companies and federal government leading up to the 2020 election. One kind of meeting consisted, and by the way, as I said earlier, that laptop that I was sharing those videos with was destroyed. It was hacked and destroyed. And, yeah. Yep. But that's okay. Because, of course, I have copies. Yeah. Anyways. Well, in many places, various places to protect it. One kind of meeting consisted of the FITF briefing individual companies on real or anticipated foreign threats. The other type of meetings were broader discussions between the FITF, other agencies, and social media platforms. Throughout 2020, the FITF held over 24 meetings with individual companies to pass along intelligence on foreign threats. The possibility of a Russian hack and leak operation was mentioned during the meeting. Similarly, the broader government meetings happened monthly starting around April 2020. Then weekly as the election drew near. Repeatedly, those meetings featured conversations about hack and leak threats. Remember what I showed you earlier where he talked about there was a leak? Okay. Specifically, the FBI warned multiple times that a hack and leak story, but keep in mind, that didn't come from Russia. That was a Ukrainian prosecutor exposing the corruption in the United States government that they don't want you to know about as we go on. Involving Burisma and Hunter Biden was set to drop in October 2020, but that's not true. It wasn't set to drop in October 2020. It was already all over the internet that they were already quashing. I got that like before 2020. I got these videos off of BuyShoot, and they'd been circulating for some time. So they're lying about it was set to drop in October 2020. Now maybe they were leaked anew. I don't know, but this kind of stuff, when those guys gave their testimony, that was released then. When those guys were doing what they were doing, when they gave those whistleblowers who were giving their testimony, when they gave those interviews, that's basically the time that they were dropping stuff. It was way before October 2020, guys. Way before then. Anywho's. Set to drop in October 2020. The congressional report asserts based on internal documents from the tech firms. The FBI briefings prompted Facebook employees to predict a hack and leak about Hunter Biden's ties to Burisma before the laptop story came out showing exactly that. We're likely to have the next few weeks a leak or series of leaks about Biden's supposed link to Burisma where we won't be able to prove they were hacked, but where we will have responsible USG players publicly saying this is a part of foreign influence operation, a Facebook employee predicted in September 2020. On September 21, 2020, another employee notified Facebook Vice President of Global Affairs Nick Clegg and Facebook Vice President of Global Public Policy Joe Kaplan the government partners altered them to the high possibility of a Russian concocted leak connecting the Biden family to Burisma. Again, I just showed you the Ukrainians who are fighting to fight corruption in Ukraine. It was not a Russian concocted leak. These were Ukrainian leaders begging to get attention to the corruption and destruction of this law enforcement agencies fighting corruption and dealing with a U.S. vice president causing 100% tariff manipulation because of his family's investments in the energy companies in Ukraine, and it had been going on for years. This is not a Russian concocted link. That's why I'm sharing these videos, and I'm begging you to please make a copy of these videos and keep them circulating, right? Both of those predictions manifested only weeks later when the Biden laptop archive became known to the public. The New York Post first reported in October 2020 emails on Biden's laptop. In fact, if I go through I probably have some messages that I shared these videos to various media sources a long time ago, right? How he used his father's name to advance lucrative business deals with Ukrainian and Chinese entities. Immediately, Facebook and Twitter rushed to suppress the Biden's laptop story as the FBI trained them to do without evidence that the laptop was part of a hack and leak operation, the report shows. Some companies wanted more information, though, and reached out to the FBI to be certain that this was the hack and leak they'd been warned of before making final decisions about whether to continue their censorship of the story and content within. But the FBI refused to acknowledge that it possessed and had authenticated the laptop, the report reads. Internal messages indicate that Facebook employees first reacted to the Post story by noticing it was exactly as the FBI had predicted. Soon they realized they lacked evidence demonstrating the email archive was hacked or stolen. Rather than use its hacked materials, standard Facebook censored the Biden laptop story under its misinformation policy and severely limited its reach. The FBI had pre-scheduled FITF meetings with Facebook on Twitter on October 14, 2020, the day the Post reporting came out. Two senior FBI employees with knowledge of the meeting testified that during the meeting, an FBI analyst said the laptop was real before the Bureau's lawyers shut down the discussion and said the FBI would not comment further. Following the meeting, the FITF and internal deliberations decided it would not comment on the laptop because it was part of an ongoing investigation. As the FITF's Facebook meeting and the U.S. government meeting, the FITF applied its no comment policy. Later on, the FITF shared a follow-up statement with representatives from Twitter, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, informing them that the laptop was not the product of an hack and leak enterprise, but did not give any additional information. Therefore, the FBI failed to disclose to the platforms that it possessed and authenticated the laptop materials reported by the New York Post only weeks before the 2020 election. Days after the Post reporting, a group of 51 former intelligence officials signed a letter falsely claiming the laptop resembled a Russian disinformation campaign. And as you saw in this live stream, none of this about this Burisma and the Biden family and that whole, none of that was a Russian disinformation campaign. So you have a former vice president, sitting president, who has done criminal acts in a foreign land and use his supporters to interfere and misuse American money to cover up his criminal activities and illegally withhold resources to Ukraine to make sure that a prosecutor who's investigating him is fired. Okay? And then try to quash, using interference with an election, quashing the revealing of his deeds. And then blame Russia, who you have a dictator who's willing to slaughter millions of people and invading a land and causing millions of people to be homeless and be fleeing from their own homeland. So you have millions who are no longer Ukrainian. We've got a war costing many billions of dollars to our country. Also, Biden can cover up his acts and control what they get to defend themselves. The very man who led to causing this war, interfering with coal and gas and those resources over there that Russia is intermixed with. Yeah, it's a nightmare. Anywho's, Michael Morell, the intelligence official who spearheaded the letter, did so in coordination with the Biden campaign to help Joe Biden win the 2020 election. When Meta was deciding how to handle the laptop story, Meta, which is also co-owned by Google now, Clegg and Kaplan considered how it might influence their relationship with the potential Biden administration moving forward. Obviously, our calls on this would color the way an incoming Biden administration views us more than almost anything else, Clegg said on WhatsApp, and the two were deciding on whether to reverse Facebook's choice to demote the laptop story. Unlike Facebook and Twitter, Google did not touch the Hunter Biden story because its threat analysis group did not find any evidence it was the product of a hack. Oh, but you know what they did? I'm telling you right now, you can look at this video right now. I've had hundreds in my live streams recently. Well, while it's live anyways. I've had 0 people show up on my live stream about this story right here. They are quashing this story on YouTube, but they can say whatever they want to, you know. Anyways, unlike Facebook and Twitter, Google did not touch the Hunter Biden story because the threat analysis group did not find any evidence was the product of a hack. Google had been privy, they'd known about the warnings from the FBI and other agencies about the potential for a hack and leak scheme, but did not reflexively crack down on post reporting. Meta did not respond to a request for a comment, of course, but Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg wrote a letter to the Judiciary Committee in August, admitting Facebook was wrong to censor the Biden laptop story. Why is my camera not Anyways, Zuckerberg also criticized the Biden administration for subsequently pressuring the platform into restricting certain content related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Billionaire Elon Musk bought Twitter in late 2022, and he turned over a trove of internal documents to shine light on how the company handled the Hunter Biden laptop story internally. Those documents, known as Twitter files, are cited in the congressional report and demonstrated how Twitter suppressed the laptop story by labeling it hacked materials without any evidence backing it up. Musk fired the Twitter executives, good for him, responsible for censoring the Biden laptop story. Two of them, Yoel Roth and Vijay Gadde, testified last year and expressed regret over their decision to clamp down on post reporting. Biden's business dealings have since been the subject of a wide-ranging House GOP investigation that uncovered $27 million of payments from the Hunter Biden and his business partners last decade. So you see what that prosecutor in those videos I've just shared with you in this live stream is now proven is true. Uncovered $27 million of payments from the Hunter Biden and his business partners last decade. The investigation also revealed details of Joe Biden's numerous interactions with his son business partners and how the Justice Department slow-walked the Hunter Biden case for 5 years. They didn't just slow-walk. They interfered with Ukraine, destroyed their criminal justice system, destroyed their anti-corruption system, completely just demolished it, and led the country straight into an invasion and war. Eventually, special counsel David Weiss's team prosecuted Hunter Biden on gun and tax charges. In June, Biden was convicted on 3 federal gun charges in Delaware, and 3 months later, he pled guilty to 9 federal tax charges in California to avoid going to trial. But nothing about what they did in Ukraine, you see. Anywho's. Election interference, how the FBI pre-bunked a true story about the Biden family's corruption in advance of the 2020 presidential election. Interim staff report on the Committee of on the Judiciary and the Select Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government, U.S. House of Representatives, October 30th, 2024. That's today. But when we get hauled up to Capitol Hill to testify on why we influenced the 2020 elections, we can say we have been meeting for years with the USG, U.S. government, to plan for it. July 15, 2020, 3:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, internal Facebook message during Facebook's meeting with the FBI and other agencies. At 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, October 14, 2020, less than 3 weeks before the 2020 presidential election, the New York Post published a potentially election-altering news story about a years-long influence peddling scheme carried out by the family of the Democratic nominee for president, former Vice President Joe Biden. The Post article detailed how Hunter Biden leveraged his famous last name to provide foreign officials with access to his father in exchange for the Biden family's significant financial gain. This information was recovered from the hard drive of a laptop attributed to Hunter Biden. The article included pictures of the signed federal subpoenas demonstrating the FBI seized that hard drive. Neither Hunter Biden nor the Biden presidential campaign denied the allegations or the provenance of the laptop. Indeed, the Biden Department of Justice has since authenticated the laptop as evidence in the federal court. Soon after the Post article was published, however, something strange happened. I'm going to have to read it because it's not focusing. Almost immediately, major social media platforms, including Twitter and Facebook, the modern-day digital town square, censored the true story about the Biden family influence peddling. As a consequence, millions of Americans cast their presidential vote unaware of the serious, credible allegations of misconduct levied against one of the two candidates. This censorship served to benefit one candidate over the other and wrongfully affected the 2020 election. Today, these companies and their executives belatedly admit that their censorship was wrong. Why were the social media companies so ready to censor a true story about Hunter Biden featured in a prominent American newspaper? Because the FBI had primed them for it. For nearly a year, the FBI had been conditioning social media companies to expect a hack and leak operation from Russia involving Hunter Biden in more than 30 meetings across 8 months. The FBI led big tech, and I will put a link also to this in the description, the FBI embarked on a concerted campaign to preemptively debunk or pre-bunk allegations about the Biden's family influence peddling. Federal agencies repeatedly warned social media platforms about a pre-election Russian influence operation relating Hunter Biden and the Ukrainian company Burisma. And keep in mind, you have seen the evidence. If you've watched this live stream, you've seen the evidence, guys, that it was not Russia that their story was coming from. It was from a Ukrainian prosecutor desperately trying to fight corruption in Ukraine of a president and a vice president of the United States of America, causing an 100% increase in tariffs off the backs of Ukrainian citizens. That's what it was about. It had nothing to do, although Russia was affected, that's for certain. In many of these meetings between federal agencies and big tech, the FBI raised the topic of potential hack and leak operations amid conversations about election security and potential foreign influence operations. In response, some platforms even adopted new content moderation policies specifically designed to address hack materials. Then, when the Post reported on Biden family influence peddling the morning of October 14, 2020, the big tech did exactly what had been primed to do. The social media companies obediently treated the article as a potential Russian hack and leak operation and applied their content moderation policies to censor it, prevent it from spreading, and hide it from the American people. Of course, as was obvious then and is widely acknowledged now, the laptop was real and its contents were authentic. It was not Russian disinformation. The FBI knew this too. It had been in possession of Hunter Biden's laptop since 2019 and used it one or more ongoing investigations in 2020. Indeed, in June 2024, the Justice Department used content from the laptop as evidence against Hunter Biden in his trial for felony gun crimes. And yet the FBI not only primed the social media companies to distrust allegations about Biden family influence peddling in advance, it misled social media companies about the authenticity of Hunter Biden's laptop after the Post story broke. The FBI's duplicity notwithstanding, big tech companies bear blame as well. Contemporaneous documents from the relevant period show that media companies recognized and received that the Biden family influence peddling allegations were likely not Russian disinformation. Nonetheless, senior leadership at these companies decided to take steps to hide this true content highly relevant to the upcoming presidential election because they knew a failure to censor the story could affect how potential incoming Biden-Harris administration would treat them. Now, this is a message, even though my camera has gone blurry because some app is blocking my camera's ability to, if you look up why your camera goes blurry and can't focus, a lot of times an app can cause interference. And anyways, Nick Clegg, what's app next? Obviously, our calls on this could color the way an incoming Biden administration views us more than almost anything else. As you saw, for over 2 hours, my camera was focusing just fine, but now, anyway. Obviously, okay, so this will color way an incoming Biden administration views us more than almost anything else. Obviously, our calls on this could color the way an incoming Biden administration views us more than almost anything else. On October 14, 2020, so internal messages between Facebook's then Vice President of Global Affairs, Nick Clegg, to Vice President of Global Public Policy, Joe Kaplan, about Facebook's censorship of the New York Post article. The Committee on the Judiciary and Select Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government have been conducting oversight of how and to what extent the executive branches coerced or colluded with companies and other intermediaries to censor lawful speech. Through a series of reports, the Committee and Select Subcommittee have revealed how the executive branch worked with social media companies, disinformation, pseudoscientists, and others to censor Americans' online speech. The interim report focuses on the coordination between the FBI and big tech to suppress allegations about Biden family influence peddling in advance of the 2020 election. Testimony from key FBI and big tech personnel and and subpoenaed non-public internal documents and communications obtained by the committee and select subcommittees show that in the months before the election, the FBI provided social media companies with specific warnings. Let's see, what were those warnings? Who? Russia. The FBI repeatedly warned big tech of the potential influence operation of Russian actors targeting the 2020 election. What? A hack and leak operation. The FBI repeatedly warned big tech that the Russian influence operation would likely take form of hack and leak, similar to the leak of Democratic National Committee emails in 2016. When? Late September on October 2020. The FBI repeatedly warned big tech that this hack and leak operation would come right before the election, either as an October surprise or as the first presidential debate on September 29th. Why? To reveal evidence regarding links between Biden family and Ukraine, including Burisma. The FBI warned big tech that the Russian hack and leak operation would likely involve the real or manufactured evidence concerning links between the Biden family and Ukraine, including the oil company Burisma. Internal Microsoft notes state that a week before the New York Post story broke on October 14th, the FBI tipped big tech off that Burisma story was likely to emerge. Threat assessment. We have recently, these are the actual statements I'm reading. We have recently received indications from USG partners. This is on page 5, by the way. No, is it? Page 4 of this document. I'll put a link in the description once this live stream is over. Involve real or manufactured evidence concerning links between the Biden family and Ukraine, including the oil company Burisma. Timing for something like this is uncertain, but could happen as soon as the first presidential debate, September 29th. While this assessment is still uncertain, an inoculating announcement about hack leak now will mitigate the impact of such a leak if it does occur and send a strong message about Facebook's proactive stance even if no such leak materializes. USG partners believe there is a risk of a hack leak operation likely involving evidence concerning links between the Biden family and Ukraine, including the oil company Burisma. September 21st, 2020. Internal Facebook email to senior Facebook executives. Internal emails among Facebook personnel. Transcribed interview of the Russian unit chief of the FITFH Commission on the Judiciary, May 2nd, 2024, on file with the Commissioner at 2125. Wednesday, October 14th, 2020, 3:27 p.m. Hack and leak. FBI tipped us all off last week that this Burisma story was likely to emerge, and today's call indicated that. Internal Microsoft notes on meeting between the U.S. government and big tech. As documents produced to the committee and select committee show, the U.S. government, particularly FBI, while in possession of Hunter Biden's laptop, provided detailed warnings of anticipated future Russian influence. And again, if you watch this live stream, you will see that it was the Ukrainian prosecutors and anti-corruption team, not Russian, that were exposing this corruption with the Biden family and U.S. officials who was helping him quash their anti-corruption team. Documents and testimony also revealed that FBI personnel who were part of the FBI task force provided these warnings knew that the laptop was real prior to the release of the New York Post story. Armed with evidence of Biden family corruption, the FBI worked for months to ensure that when this evidence emerged in the public sphere, big tech would be ready to downplay and censor it. Big tech's immediate reaction to the October 14th Post story confirmed how the companies were primed by the FBI's month-long pre-bunking efforts. For example, internal Facebook communications showed the company almost immediately deemed the story to be a hack or leak of the sort that Facebook was expecting. On the morning of October 14th, Facebook employees exchanged candid communications about the story, including 8:37 a.m. About what we expect in the hack leak department. It's pretty much exactly what we pre-gamed. 8:42. It looks exactly like the hack leak scenario we'd expected. 9:06 a.m. Can we check with the FBI Delaware if they have anything on this? Article claims the FBI had the HDD since December. 9:09 a.m. Exact content expected for hack and leak. 9:10 a.m. Right on schedule. 9:14 a.m. Facebook employee says is not in touch with the FBI in this. I'll connect with Maryland, and Facebook employee will raise at the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force meeting today. 9:33 a.m. For your information, our legal team is reaching out to the FBI on this. 10:40 a.m. We're NQing the content with demotion and doing outreach to 3 PFCs third-party fact checkers, no updated info from FBI, no outreach from the Biden campaign, 10:55 a.m. Is this the October surprise everyone was waiting for? And it shows from and to. Can you talk to the FBI counterparts and see what they say about this? 10/14/2020, New York Post, and it shows how Hunter Biden introduced Ukrainian biz. 10/14, it looks exactly like the hack leak scenario. This is the actual email as evidence. Has reached out to FBI in Delaware. Let's make sure they're reaching out will not cause confusion or delay. Other documents suggest that key employees within the social media companies understood how their censorship would influence the election before the story broke. Facebook personnel understood that their response to an alleged hack and leak could sway the presidential election. In a July 2020 internal exchange, a number of Facebook's trust and safety teams said that when we get hauled up to the Hill to testify on why we influenced the 2020 elections, we can say we have been meeting for years with the U.S. government to plan for it. Quote unquote. Nothing had changed by the time the story broke on October 14th. The head electoral emerging risk where Facebook's trust and safety reacted by noting that it was only 482 hours to the first polls close. July 15th, 2020. But when we get, they planned it. And this is July 2020. This is way before the FBI ever planned to quash this story that they said was supposed to drop in 2020 and falsely claimed it was from Russia, just basically lying about the Ukrainian prosecutor that they helped get fired and the Ukrainian prosecutor trying to stop this corruption going on with the Biden family. So in July of 2020, this is what he says. This is where the quote is coming from. The date is July 15th. But when we get hauled up to the Hill to testify on why we influenced the 2020 elections, we can say we have been meeting for years with the United States government to plan for it. That's a statement that will go down in history. The FBI has defended its actions as information exchange with private sector partners to prevent amorphous foreign malign influence operations. But if the FBI's intent was truly to help social media companies combat actual foreign influence operations, the FBI should have shared the single most important fact. The influence peddling allegations in the Post story were based off of real credible information, including information in the FBI's possession. The FBI failed to do so because the FBI are criminally interfering with an election. And they need to be prosecuted. Every person was involved in that campaign. How do you hold the FBI? How do you prosecute the FBI? But they need to be. And that's where our legislators need to pass laws that they can haul them in and remove them from power. Whoever's doing what, they need that power. You can't just give them free reign to do whatever they want. Balance the checks, people. Anyways, while the FBI eventually conceded it had no indication the allegations in the Post story were Russian disinformation, only after FBI agent mistakenly revealed to Twitter that the laptop was real, the FBI still withheld the fact that it had seized an authenticated Hunter Biden laptop months prior. As a result, Twitter and Facebook continue to censor the most significant news stories of the election cycle, limiting the reach of allegations of Biden family corruption and ultimately benefiting the Biden-Harris campaign. Twitter suppressed the Post story by removing links to it, applying safety warnings, and blocking the ability to send it via direct message. And right now, as I speak, while I am live streaming this, YouTube is suppressing this video because of the words that are connected to this live stream. They have quashed it. YouTube, owned by Google, is currently trying to block how the visibility is affected this election with these facts. Okay. Although Twitter lifted the ban on the story next day, it continued to suspend the Post account until October 30th. For a week, Facebook manually demoted the content by 50%, substantially reducing the likelihood the users would see it in their feed. During this week, over 30 million Americans cast their votes in the 2020 election. Nearly one-fifth of the final vote total, and far more than the final reported margin of 45,000 votes that determined the outcome of the election. The roots of FBI's 2020 pre-bunking scheme dated back to the 2016 presidential election, after which emerged sensationalized accounts of foreign disinformation had affected the integrity of the election. Fueled by left-wing election denialism, a cottage industry of pseudoscientists, think tanks, and university centers sprung up to combat the alleged rise in misinformation and disinformation, which they held responsible for President Trump's victory And you heard Biden's own words in the recorded conversation shared in this live stream with the former Ukrainian president, called him a dog after the former president was actually talking politely about Trump. Oh, he didn't see anything wrong with the conversation he had with him. He seemed very polite or whatever, and he was just, trying to speak nicely of Trump. And as soon as he does, Biden starts talking to, literally calls him a dog. Okay, that's what this comment's referring to. Talking about, he won, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, mad because he won. These entities work together and with social media companies to censor speech, disproportionately conservative speech, as YouTube does, quash YouTube channels egregiously. Say anything about the word Trump and you'll start getting 0 views on your videos. Fact. Okay. The FBI formed the Foreign Influence Task Force to coordinate with social media companies and prevent alleged foreign disinformation from reaching American voters. These entities work together and with social media companies to censor speech, disproportionately conservative speech, all in the name of stopping disinformation and, ironically enough, promoting democracy. We're a republic, though. The FBI's debunking of allegations of Biden family influence peddling in the closing weeks of the 2020 presidential election was merely a continuation of its earlier efforts to stop Trump. This is the same FBI that abused its foreign surveillance authorities to spy on Trump's campaign in 2016. This is the same FBI that fabricated evidence to support warrantless surveillance on a Trump campaign associate. This is the same FBI where senior officials bragged about an insurance plan to prevent Trump from becoming president and promised each other they would stop him. This is the same FBI that has purged conservative agents from its ranks and asked employees whether their colleagues are supporters of Trump. The FBI's protestations that it is not biased against conservatives ring hollow when it actively suppressed true and explosive allegations concerning the family of the Democratic nominee for president in 2020. It's impossible to know what would have happened if the FBI had not pre-bunked the allegations about Biden family influence peddling, but it is unquestionable that the FBI's actions influenced the 2020 presidential election, and it cannot happen again. So this is actually a pretty long document, so I just wanted to give, that's just sort of like the introduction to this table of contents. This is all the details. I mean, they need to make a movie about this, right? They probably will. This is just horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. But that's going to be it for this one. I'm not going to go through this whole entire document. I mean, it's 82 pages long. But I just, anybody out there who's proactive about their government, if you want to be somebody who pulls the curtains wide open, we need more of those people.